Welcome to the City of Anaheim's video series, Visualizing the Code. This video will discuss front yard landscaping requirements for single-family homes. To help conserve water, we'll also go over some key considerations when designing a drought-tolerant landscape. First, let's go over some key terms. The distance from the ultimate right-of-way, typically the inside of the sidewalk, to the imaginary line that delineates the front yard area is called the front setback. This dimension can range from 15 feet to 30 feet, depending on the zone. In this scenario, let's assume it's the most common zone, the RS2 zone, which has a front yard setback of 25 feet. Within this front yard, you are limited to the amount of concrete and hardscape for driveways and walkways. The reason for this is to maintain an attractive single-family neighborhood. A front yard full of cars and concrete doesn't have the best curb appeal. In the front yard, you can have no more than 50% paved for walkways or driveways. This includes walkways that lead to the front door and side yard, or paved areas for driveways that lead to the garage, or a parking space that's screened and located outside of the front yard. In this scenario, the driveway and walkways equate to 35% of the front yard. The remaining area in the front yard must be landscaped with either live plant materials or artificial turf. Let's take a moment to define what we mean by live plant materials. This typically includes trees, grasses, ground covers, shrubs, and flowers. We classify bark, mulch, decomposed granite, rocks, and gravel as decorative organic or inorganic materials. These decorative materials are intended to enhance the design of the landscape. They can be used in pathways, landscape borders, and other decorative features. Please note that the live plant materials still need to be the star of the show, and the decorative materials are the supporting cast. Based on the types of plants and how large they grow, we need to make sure that 75% of your landscaped area is planted with live plant materials within 2 years. This leaves 25% of your landscape area to be designed with decorative materials. Now let's sort out all these percentages before we move on. In this example, the hardscape is 35% of the front yard area. Of the remaining 975 square feet, 75% is live plant material, and the remaining 25% is decorative materials. Now let's also take a look at the same front yard, but in plan view. We see again that the hardscape is 35%. The landscaping makes up the remaining 65%. Within that area, the live plant material is 75%, and the decorative organic or inorganic material is 25%. And this is what it looks like after 2 years of planting. Here's a tip when calculating the area. Research the size of the ground cover or plant at maturity to ensure that your spacing is adequate to get full coverage within 2 years. Let's look at some more examples to demonstrate what meets the code. In this example, the yard is landscaped with a typical lawn. The primary live plant material is a ground cover, and it exceeds the live plant material minimum. Depending on the type of grass, it can consume a lot of water, but might require less maintenance. In this next example, the grass is replaced with artificial turf. If you are considering artificial turf, make sure you look for a material that has a dense pile. We discourage the use of a low pile material because they do not wear well over time. Now in this example, the front yard is primarily gravel with very sparse planting. This does not meet our ratio of live plant material to decorative materials. Now let's assume we increase the amount of live plant material and limit the decorative materials. Depending on the density and the type of plant material, within a few years it will fill in and provide the 75% coverage. Please note that the initial planting of a new landscape will require extra watering to ensure the plants acclimate to its new environment. Also note that these landscapes may require additional maintenance on an ongoing basis. So if a maintenance-free landscape is your goal, you'll need to pick a plant material that's hardy. One other key consideration to keep in mind is that live plant materials have different watering needs. Plants are classified into what are called hydrozones. Make sure you plant materials of similar hydrozones together, or else your water schedule might overwater or underwater plants that are right next to each other. Now let's look at this example. The ratio of live plant material to decorative material is too low. Now that's much better. And after 2 years, looks great. Let's briefly talk about the Parkway. The Parkway is the area between the curb and the sidewalk. This area is owned by the city. However, you are required to maintain the landscape. You must provide full coverage of live plant materials or artificial turf. The plant materials you select must be low to the ground to ensure visibility. You are allowed to have one walkway that is 5 feet wide along the length of the parkway for access to a car. Large rocks or above-ground planters are not permitted. One other consideration to conserve water is to modify your watering frequency and schedule. Established landscapes may not require as much water as you may think. For more information regarding water-saving tips and incentives, visit the Anaheim Public Utilities website. Let's do our part to save water. We understand that redesigning your front yard can be a complex project. Reference the City of Anaheim's Outdoor Master Plan plant palette to get a starting idea of different recommended ground covers, shrubs, and trees. Those are not your only options, but it's a good place to start. We hope that these examples have helped you to visualize the code. Call to speak with a planner or visit our website for additional information.